Chapter 66. Hera shuddered when she heard that Cockney-like voice. The look on her face slowly turned cold as she turned around and said woodenly, "Mr. Hill, I am Hera Lewis, and I am the Chief Executive Officer of Baroque Electronic. You may address me either by my name or as Miss Lewis." The Hill family was a powerful family who owned several large-scale companies and dozens of small and medium-sized companies in Johnford. Several of Baroque Electronics' component suppliers were owned by the Hill family. Though Hunter's relentless pursuit disgusted her, she had no choice but to endure it for now. "But, Hera, hasn't your grandfather already agreed to our relationship?" An aggrieved look appeared on Hunter's chubby face. Herman had already announced that the Hill family could propose a marriage between their families under the condition that they paid a dowry of no less than $50 million. $50 million was an astronomical number to most people, but it was nothing to the Hill family, who had several $billion worth of assets. Besides, he was the sole heir of the Hill family. The old master did not mind paying a $50 million dowry and had even decided to fork out an additional $500 million to organize his wedding. Most importantly, the old master would put them in charge of the Hill family's largest company once they were married. "I have a fiancé, Mr. Hill, please. Have some respect." Hera did not have an expression on her face as she waved him off. "Hera, hasn't your fiancé already been kicked out? Besides, he's a country bumpkin who can't give you a good future. His only strength is that he knows martial arts. I can pick up martial arts as well if that's what you like. Several experts have achieved 9th Division inner energy in my family." Hunter refused to stop talking and continued bugging Hera instead. He tried to get his crush to change her mind. Hera felt like her head was about to explode. "Hera!" Just then, Scotty hurried over with two followers clad in white martial arts uniforms. She had an aquamarine-colored gown on, and her eyes and smile shone as she strutted over. Her smooth hair spread over her shoulders like a black-colored waterfall. The pale skin of her shoulders was exposed, and with her delicate collarbones, made her look like a natural work of art. When Scotty spoke, she immediately attracted the attention of others. Multiple rich, young heirs immediately directed their gazes toward her. "Who's that good-looking girl? She's hot! Shit! Isn't that Scotty, the tomboy? The one from the Martial Arts Association? Who else could she be?" When Scotty's name was mentioned, several heirs immediately averted their gaze. She was a bold woman who showed no fear of anything or anyone simply because her grandfather was the head of the Martial Arts Association. Out of the 10 guys who had ever tried to woo her, she had beaten up 8 of them. "Skate!" Hera hurried over to her. She took Scotty's hands in hers, and her eyes shone as she said, "You look gorgeous today." Despite having known Scotty for so many years, it was her first time seeing Scotty dressed up. Scotty pretended to be offended. "Don't I always look gorgeous?" Hera stuck her tongue out and said cheekily, "How would you look gorgeous when you're usually dressed like a guy?" "Wow. I can't believe you have the guts to say that to my face." Scotty immediately extended a hand to pinch Hera's waist. Don't tickle me. I'm sorry." Hera laughed as she begged for mercy. The sight of 2 beauties teasing each other was a feast for everyone's eyes. Hunter was so engrossed that he nearly began drooling. Scotty caught sight of Hunter and recalled how her best friend had been complaining about him for the past 2 days. Her smile vanished off her face as she glanced at him coolly and said, "One more look, and I'll gouge your eyes out." The other young heirs might fear Scotty, but Hunter did not. After all, Scotty's skills only ranked around the 4th or 5th division. The fact that she was the champion of the martial arts competition was bullshit. The competition had been organized by the Martial Arts Association, which meant anyone who had even an ounce of sense could tell how unfair it was. Chapter 67. It did not matter if Hera did not respect him. After all, he had had a crush on her for the longest time. Yet, even Scotty dared speak to him so conceitedly. Hunter stuffed his hands into his pockets and brazenly directed his gaze toward Scotty's low-cut neckline as he grinned and said, "These are my eyes. I can look anywhere I want to. You fat ass. Are you trying to get beaten up?" Scotty gathered her skirts in her hands and strode over to him. She had beaten up countless young heirs. Hunter could not help but feel somewhat nervous as he watched Scotty stride over. Thankfully, his family's bodyguards hurried over before she reached him. 4 bodyguards stood in front of Hunter to protect him. Without hesitation, Scotty curled her hands into fists and prepared to fight. Skate, duck. Just then, Hera let out a piercing scream. Stunned, Scotty paused and heard an incoming rumble. Boom! The 4 bodyguards standing before her got knocked off their feet. One of Hunter's bodyguards bumped into him, and they both fell to the ground. Everyone was shocked by the scene before them. When they looked to the ground, they saw an old lady dressed in a janitor's uniform lying unmoving on the ground. She had a bloody wound the size of a bowl in her chest. By the time everyone returned to their senses, nearly a dozen inspectors had already made their way over. Close on their heels was Henderson, chief of the inspection office. Behind them were Zachariah, head of the Martial Arts Association, Grant from one of the highest-ranking families, Harold, the richest man in Johnford, and several old masters from second-tier families. These people were all so powerful that any one of them could cause an earthquake in Johnford by simply stomping their feet. Yet, these people were all crowded around a skinny middle-aged man. On the man's left was a stout, burly man wearing a wind jacket and fedora, while a mysterious person wearing a smiley face mask on his right. His mere presence exerted an aura so strong it made it difficult for some to breathe. Nash slowly walked over to the old woman. He bent down and wiped his hand over her face. That tore a mask made from human skin away and revealed the good-looking face beneath it. Henderson took in a deep breath and said with trepidation, "What a great disguise. Not even our high-precision facial recognition system managed to detect it." The inspection office had dispatched 20 drones equipped with a high-precision facial recognition system. Throughout their dispatchment, the drones had not detected any problems in the faces they had scanned. Now, he finally understood why Stellar spent $1 billion on hiring protection for the warden. The inspection office would not be able to deal with assassins on this level. Nash slowly straightened up and quietly returned to the warden's side. The corner of Stellar's mouth curled upwards as he said, "Can't you be a little easier on them? Keep them alive so we can interrogate them and find out who their bosses are." "I'll make sure to do that next time." Nash hummed in response and resumed standing next to the warden quietly. The warden glanced at Stellar and said exasperatedly, "Did you think these assassins would sell out their bosses? Even if the Grim Reaper doesn't kill them, they'll kill themselves because they failed their mission. They won't leave any clues behind." This was supposed to be Mr. Lee's birthday celebration, but a death had occurred. Those present at the scene did not even dare breathe too loudly. Scotty, who had returned to Hera's side, nudged her and whispered, "Hera, is the man who's wearing a mask good looking?" Hera rolled her eyes at Scotty. "You can't even tell what their gender is, and you're asking me what I think of their looks. What's going on in your mind?" Scotty whispered, "He's definitely a guy. He might even be 100 times more powerful than my grandfather is." Hera's eyes widened. "Even more powerful than Nash is?" Scotty nodded. "He's at least 10 times more powerful than Nash is. I think I've found love." Chapter 68. Hera could not hold her laughter in. "Should I help you get his number?" Scotty blushed. "If you can get his number, I'll be your humble servant." Hera glanced at the guy wearing the mask. Coincidentally, the guy was looking in their direction as well. His chilling gaze caused her heart to skip a beat. Hera gulped. "No. He's so intimidating." Scotty shook Hera's arm. "Come on, Rara. Help me." Hera stared at Scotty as if she were an alien. This woman was constantly going on about murdering and killing people. Yet, she did not even have the guts to ask someone for their number. Moreover, she was even putting on a cute act for her. The two had been best friends since college. Scotty had been protecting her ever since they graduated from college. It was Scotty's first time asking her for a favor. No matter what it took, she had to do this for her best friend. Hera took several deep breaths. When the group of people walked over, she stuck her arm out to halt the masked man. As she did that, the jet-black muzzle of a gun was pointed toward her head. "Stellar, mind your manners." The warden immediately berated him. If Nash did not do anything, That meant there was no imminent danger. It was unseemly to put ordinary citizens at gunpoint. Stella realized that and immediately stepped aside with his gun. However, that had already scared Hira so badly she had turned pale. Scotty had also nearly fainted from fright. Who on earth were these people? Why did they have guns? She gave her grandfather an inquiring look. When Scotty saw her grandfather glaring at her, she realized she may have gotten into trouble. Nash glanced at Hira. He had no idea what that foolish woman wanted. Well, could I get your number? Hira's mind had already gone blank. Her voice trembled, and she felt a layer of cold sweat coating her back. She had decided that even sacrificing her life would be worth it for her best friend's happiness. Grant frowned. Whose daughter are you? Do you know who you're talking to? Aren't you going to back off? Zachariah also winked at her repeatedly. However, Hira paid no attention to him. The warden gave Grant a displeased look. Chills ran down Grant's back, and he hurriedly shut his mouth. Hira could not control her trembling any longer. It was even more tortuous than going up to the richest man and slapping him. Nash glanced at her and said teasingly, "What's the matter? Got a crush on me?" His voice had been altered by the mask's mechanisms, and his voice sounded dull and robotic. Not even his master, let alone Hira, would be able to recognize it. Of course, his master possessed multiple different forms of power. He did not need to hear his voice to recognize him. Hira retrieved her phone and handed it to Nash after unlocking it. Nash glanced at it. His photo was on the screen. He turned to look at Scotty and realized she was staring at him intently. When she saw him looking at her, she blushed and hurriedly lowered her head. So, Hira was asking him for his number on Scotty's behalf. Nash mumbled to himself, "Idiot." Then, he strode toward the estate's front door. The warden glanced at Hira and gave her an odd half-smile before hurrying after Nash. When Zachariah finally got a chance to stand directly across Hira, he berated her in a low voice. "Girl, did you have guts for breakfast or what? Do you know who they are?" Chapter 69. Hira had a stunned look on her face as she shook her head. Zachariah heaved a long sigh before walking into the estate. Hira returned to Scotty huffily. Scotty hurriedly asked, "How did it go?" Hira pouted and said, "He called me an idiot." "What the fuck? Why is he so insensitive?" "Oh no. I think I like him even more now." A twinkle appeared in Scotty's eyes. Hira said distractedly, "Do you think we're in trouble? Even your grandfather and Mr. Zell had to defer to them. It seems that they're really powerful." She turned towards Scotty when she did not get any response from her. She watched as Scotty sent a picture of the masked man into the Martial Arts Association group chat with the message, "At everyone, I want to know everything about this man within the next 3 minutes." Inside the estate, the 3-story mansion in the middle, there was a large private plaza that was part of the plaza's grounds. High-ranking nobles and dignitaries were gathered in groups of 2s and 3s to sip wine and chat. Olivia pushed a wheelchair in front of her as she walked out of the mansion with the rest of the Lee family members. The wheelchair was carrying an old man with thinning hair. His eyes and mouth were lopsided, and his half-raised right hand could not stop trembling. It seemed that he was not in very good health. Joseph, who seemed disheveled, turned to berate the higher-ups of the Lee family as she strode outward. "I instructed you to have someone be on standby outside, but you ignored what I said. Do you think it seems very hospitable of us to only welcome the warden when he's already inside the estate?" The members of the Lee family blushed profusely, and no one dared say anything. Olivia sighed as well. She had only returned to the country and had forgotten the warden would drop by today because she was busy caring for her grandfather. As Joseph led the higher-ups out of the mansion, they saw that the warden and his accompanying entourage had just arrived at the plaza. His heart sank as he jogged over to them. Everyone in the Lee family, regardless of age, also hurried over. Confused and surprised looks appeared on the faces of those who had already taken their seats. What sort of guest would require everyone in the Lee family to run over so they could greet them? They shifted their gazes, and a look of understanding appeared when they realized it was Walter and Grant. At the Lewis family stable, Hubert's face flushed with pride. "Walter is the richest man in Johnford. but no one from the Lee family arrived in advance to welcome him. That's quite snobbish of them. His daughter was getting married to a member of the Watson family soon. He, too, felt proud of the excellent treatment the Watson family was receiving. Lauren sneered. The Lee family is a high-ranking family as well. They're a long-established family and have a retired major as the head of their family. Walter has no right to want the Lee family to welcome him, does he? Besides, not even Miss Olivia, let alone anyone else in the Lee family, would so much as spare the Watson family a glance. Rooney laughed. Don't kid yourself, Lauren. I know you're just being sour grapes. Why not ask your daughter to marry a man like Kai if you're so capable? Lauren picked her glass up and took an elegant sip. Nash is miles better than Kai is. Pfft, Rooney spluttered. That country bumpkin doesn't even have the right to attend the birthday celebration. What could make him better than Kai? Hira and Scotty arrived at their table while they were still arguing. Rooney's smile faded considerably after seeing Scotty. Grandpa, Mom, Dad. Hira smiled sweetly as she greeted them and sat down. Grandpa Lewis, Mr. Harrison, Lauren. Scotty did the same, and only exchanged greetings with Herman, Harrison, and Lauren. The two completely ignored Helena and her family. Rooney pursed her lips and muttered, "How impudent." Herman sighed noiselessly as he watched things unfold. One of them was a granddaughter marrying into the Watson family. The Lewis family needed the help of the Watsons to continue surviving. The other was a granddaughter who had just secured a $2 billion project with Drake Group. He did not know whose side he should be on now. Hira leaned against Scotty's shoulder and glanced at her phone before whispering, "It's been 10 minutes. Have you gotten anything on him yet?" Scotty shook her head. "We found nothing. This person is so mysterious." Her inbox pinged with an encrypted email after she finished her sentence. The title of the email was Information on Masked Man. Chapter 70. The two immediately perked up. Scotty hurriedly opened her inbox and clicked on the email, which consisted of a bunch of links. Hira whispered, "It's not a virus, is it?" Scotty did not care, and she clicked on the link. They ended up on the dark web. Moreover, an account had already been set up. When the web page refreshed, it redirected to the dark web assassin's leaderboard. A profile with a smiley face display picture was ranked in first place. Next to the picture was a flag that indicated which country he was from. The Smiling Grim Reaper's KDA popped up on the page. Smiling Grim Reaper KDA 999-0-9999. Scotty's hand shuddered, and she dropped her phone onto the red carpet. Hira's face was pale. Her throat felt like a hand had wrapped itself around it. She had gotten in the way of the dark web's highest-ranking assassin? What did a 999-0-9999 KDA mean? Did it mean he had killed 999 people by himself, or if he had assisted in the killings of 9,999 people? Hira's mouth felt dry when she recalled the old woman who had been shot through the chest. She instinctively looked up at the masked man. Coincidentally, he was looking at her too. His cold eyes emanated an aura as terrifying as the Grim Reaper itself. Hira was scared out of her wits and hurriedly turned around so she could hug Scotty. Nash averted his gaze, his lips curling into an undetectable smirk. Scotty was the granddaughter of the head of the Martial Arts Association, which meant she had connections. They would probably be able to find out who he was. Nash rarely appeared before the public as the Smiling Grim Reaper. He only dared to wear this outfit here because no one knew who he was. Other than Kane and that sniper, the only people who had seen him in this outfit were already buried 3 feet under. Meanwhile, images of the Smiling Grim Reaper's outfit had already ingrained themselves into the minds of foreign assassins. After being grounded for 3 years, he had no idea how powerful the people on the Blood leaderboard were. He also did not know which of those on the Blood leaderboard had joined the Blood Fiends. He had put on this outfit so he could let some old friends know the Warden was under his protection. If they proceeded with their missions to kill the Warden, they would have to prepare to greet death at any given time. "Warden, I apologize for not coming earlier to welcome you. Please accept my sincere apologies." Joseph forced himself to go forth and bowed down as he apologized. The rest of the Lee family also bowed, showing just how sincere their apology was. Grant had a half smile on his face as he said, "You're truly a special kid, Joseph. You didn't even bother showing the warden any respect." The Lee family was a high-ranking family on good terms with the Watsons. Meanwhile, the Watsons and the Zells were arch-enemies. Naturally, the Zell family would do everything in their means to oppress the Lee family. Joseph bowed humbly, looking like he wanted to cry. The warden waved a hand and smiled as he said, "I'm just an ordinary person when I'm not on the battlefield. There's no need for you to be so uptight. Mr. Lee was a wonderful mentor to me, and I'm here as his student to celebrate his 88th birthday party today." Joseph gave Grant a long, knowing look when he heard that before answering respectfully, "Thank you for being so considerate, Warden, please, this way." Grant stood rooted to the spot, dumbfounded. He had not expected Mr. Lee and the warden to be connected this way. "You should watch your mouth, Zell." Walter clasped his hands behind his back and glanced at Grant nonchalantly. "I wonder who gave you the guts to try jeopardizing the warden's relationship with the Lee family." An ugly look appeared on Grant's face, but he did not dare voice his anger. Zacharias stood on the sidelines, not daring to say anything. The constant strife between the powerful families was not something he could get involved in. The group headed toward the wheelchair parked at the mansion's entrance. Joseph walked over to his father and kneeled to whisper, "Dad, the warden is here to wish you a happy birthday." Mr. Lee struggled to lift his head. Tears brimmed in his eyes as he gazed at the warden. Upon realizing the state Mr. Lee was in, the look on the warden's face changed as he asked, "What happened to Mr. Lee?" "My father became paralyzed after suffering a stroke 7 years ago, and he was also diagnosed with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease several years ago," Joseph explained, a gloomy look on his face.